Little Red Riding Hood. Once upon a time, there was a sweet little girl who always wore a bright red hooded cloak. Because of this, everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. She lived in a small cottage with her mother at the edge of a great forest. The forest was vast and full of tall trees that whispered in the wind, their leaves rustling like a soft melody. Streams ran through the land, their water sparkling in the sunlight. The air smelled fresh, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and damp earth after the morning dew. One day, her mother called her into the kitchen, where a basket lay prepared on the wooden table. "Grandmother is feeling ill, my dear. Please take this basket of fresh bread, honey, and warm soup to her. It will help her regain her strength. But remember, stay on the path and do not talk to strangers. The woods can be dangerous, and you must be careful." Little Red Riding Hood nodded eagerly. She loved her grandmother dearly and wanted to help her feel better. Taking the basket, she kissed her mother goodbye and stepped out of the cottage. The morning sun cast golden rays upon the forest path, and the birds sang a joyful tune as she walked. The trees stretched their limbs high above, forming a natural tunnel of green. As she skipped along, she noticed a beautiful patch of wildflowers growing by the side of the road. Bright red poppies, yellow buttercups, and delicate bluebells swayed in the breeze. "Grandmother loves flowers," she thought and, forgetting her mother's warning, stepped off the path to pick some. She carefully selected the prettiest ones, inhaling their sweet fragrance. Just then, a large wolf emerged from behind a tree. His fur was thick and gray, and his yellow eyes gleamed with cunning. "Good morning, little girl," he said with a sly smile. "Where are you going on this lovely day?" His voice was smooth, almost charming, but there was something unsettling about the way he looked at her. "I'm taking this basket of food to my grandmother's house," Red Riding Hood replied, still clutching her bouquet of flowers. "She is sick and needs some good food to make her strong again." The wolf licked his lips. "What a kind girl you are. And where does your dear grandmother live?" "She lives at the end of this path, in a cottage with a red door," she answered innocently, unaware of the danger before her. The wolf grinned widely. "What a lovely place. Well, I won't keep you. Have a safe journey." And with that, he disappeared into the trees, his long bushy tail flicking behind him. However, the cunning wolf did not leave. Instead, he ran as fast as he could to grandmother's house. His paws barely made a sound as he weaved through the trees, taking hidden shortcuts only he knew. When he arrived, he stood before the small wooden cottage with its cheerful red door and lace-curtained windows. Knocking gently, he called out, "Who is it?" "It's me, Little Red Riding Hood," the wolf answered in a sweet, innocent voice. Grandmother, thinking it was truly her granddaughter, smiled and unlatched the door. But as soon as she opened it, the wolf leaped forward, his jaws wide. Grandmother barely had time to cry out before she was swallowed whole. The wolf then patted his belly, burped contentedly, and slipped into her bed. He pulled the blanket up to his chin, put on her nightcap, and waited. A little while later, Little Red Riding Hood arrived at the cottage. She noticed the door was slightly ajar. How strange, she thought, stepping inside. The room was dimly lit, the curtains drawn. A small fire flickered in the hearth, casting long shadows on the walls. "Grandmother, it's me. I brought you some food," she called as she walked toward the bed. But when she saw her grandmother, something seemed different. The figure in the bed was larger than she remembered, and the voice that answered her sounded strange. "Grandmother, what big ears you have! All the better to hear you with, my dear," the wolf said in a gruff voice. "Grandmother, what big eyes you have! All the better to see you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big hands you have! All the better to hug you with, my dear. Grandmother, what big teeth you have! All the better to eat you with," the wolf roared and jumped out of bed, lunging at Little Red Riding Hood. Just as the wolf was about to grab her, a strong voice shouted, "Stop right there." A woodcutter who had been passing by heard the commotion and burst into the cottage, his axe raised high. With one swift swing, he frightened the wolf so much that the beast yelped and ran out of the cottage, vanishing into the forest, never to return. The woodcutter and Little Red Riding Hood quickly opened the closet and found Grandmother, shaken but unharmed. She had managed to escape just in time. They embraced tightly, relieved and overjoyed. "From now on, I will always listen to Mother and never talk to strangers," said Little Red Riding Hood. "And I will always stay on the path." She and her grandmother enjoyed the fresh bread, honey, and warm soup together. That evening, as the sun set over the forest, Little Red Riding Hood made her way home, her heart filled with gratitude and newfound wisdom. And from that day on, she was always careful when traveling through the woods. The end.